Community than just your household or your daily life, a longer history that you might be contributing to a community that has some history and looks forward to having some future as well, I think makes a tremendous amount of sense.
Are you ready to sort of join a national argument? I know that you've been engaged in it to a degree already, but would you like to hear from people who read the book? Do you see this as part of an ongoing process?
Very much so. We'd love to hear from people who read the book, and we'd like to continue this discussion in any way we can. And it is an evolving picture. There's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot still to be learned about how to do things better, more easily, more permanently.
Elizabeth Plater-Zyberk, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Where and how Americans live their lives. That's the focus of a new series that begins tonight. We'll be looking at issues such as sprawl and low-income housing, shopping, and architecture. Ray Suarez has the first of these occasional reports from Atlanta.
In many ways, metropolitan Atlanta is like cities and their suburbs around the country. Only here, the problems are all worse. Ever longer commutes.
My commute from Lithonia to here takes me now an hour.
Downtown housing prices spiking.
I would love to live in town, but you can't afford to live in town and have the kind of space you can get 15, 16 miles from town.
Debates over building new freeways.
If we don't build it and we add 400 more thousand people in the north end of our county, nobody moves.
The Atlanta metropolitan area is now in its third consecutive decade of rapid growth. In jobs, in residents, in wealth, and in size. And it's struggling to control the sprawl. There are no rivers or mountain ranges, no natural boundaries to block Atlanta's expansion. It has absorbed all or part of 13 counties in north-central Georgia. About 500 acres of land are bulldozed here every week to make way for new development. In the last 20 years, the population has doubled, but land is being developed far faster, so the number of miles driven by the average Atlantan more than doubled.
There's a store that's about 1.5 miles away, Kroger, but we don't ever walk there.
The design of the suburbs makes driving a necessity, not an option. Local zoning laws require set distances between offices, retail stores, and housing. And walking anywhere can be tough, if not dangerous.
In the subdivision I live in, there's not a sidewalk to be seen.
We don't have any sidewalks or parks or anywhere around that we could get to without getting in a car.
Richard Tucker is the president of the Chamber of Commerce of the fastest growing county in the region, Gwinnett.
The metro Atlanta way of life is almost like out west, you know, one man, one horse. We're one man, one woman, one automobile. And that's a hard pattern to break.
Except it's becoming less convenient. In the last decade, the number of hours spent sitting in traffic has doubled.
Such huge cars and just one person sitting in each car. It's just ridiculous.
The commute frustrates Miriam Farouk.
You want to start your day with a happy, smiling face, and you don't want to be like, by the time you reach work or school, it's like 1.5 hours of a ride and you're all tensed up and your day just starts all messed up.
8 months ago, Miriam and her husband, Amin, moved 30 miles from downtown to get a larger but still affordable home for their 3 children. Amin Farouk's 10-mile commute often takes an hour or more. Professor of architecture and urban planning, he's worried that the traffic congestion and rapid expansion of subdivisions are affecting the area's water, air quality, and green space.
The first thing which I noticed is the lack of trees. Now this subdivision has only 104 houses. A very nice, clean subdivision without much trees, so landscaping becomes a major problem. And especially, when the summertime, you can see the difference. You can feel the heat of the summer because there's not many trees here,
According to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, fewer trees and more asphalt and air conditioners have created a growing heat island effect throughout metro Atlanta. The area's water supply is dwindling and air pollution is increasing. When ozone smog is high, the Centers for Disease Control has reported a 35% increase in emergency room visits for respiratory illnesses. In 1998, the Environmental Protection Agency ruled that Atlanta had violated the 1990 Clean Air Act, meaning the region would lose over $1.7 billion in highway funding. Wesley Wolf of the Southern Environmental Law Center explains.
The sanctions are that you have to redirect your transportation monies from projects that pollute the air to projects that can help clean up the air.
Two opposing camps responded to the crisis with different strategies. Wolf's organization is part of a coalition that has used the Clean Air Act as leverage to slow sprawl and highway construction and give people an alternative to driving.
The federal transportation money can keep flowing to this region and other regions like Atlanta. The region just cannot spend that money on things that pollute the air. We can spend our money on transit that helps improve air quality. We can spend our money on pedestrian safety, highway safety projects, intersection improvements, other sorts of projects like that, but we can't dig the hole deeper.
The second camp's strategy, led by the suburban counties, was to clear out traffic by building more roads. Federal and local transportation officials created a plan that would postpone the Clean Air Act's 1999 deadline for cleaner air until 2005 and allow road building to resume. Richard Tucker backs that plan. Along with the Gwinnett Chamber of Commerce post, he's on the board of the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority.
Whether we like it or not, we have to provide for people to drive in a car. If they want to drive alone, that's their prerogative. We want to make it, we want to incent them to drive in carpools. That's why we have HOV lanes. That's why we have a new bus system that just came online last November that is over capacity now. We already need new buses. So some people are wanting to do that, but as a percentage of the 4 million people in this region, only 2 to 3% are going to use those means of transportation today. Now, they may use them more in time, and that's certainly the long-range plan. But, you know, we can't neglect the road building that needs to continue.
The most controversial part of the Transportation Authority's plan is to build the Northern Arc Freeway, a 65-mile crescent across 3 counties, 25 to 30 miles north of the city limits. Wayne Hill, the longtime chairman of the Gwinnett County Commission, says that unless the arc is built, pollution problems will increase, not decrease.
If it's not built, I think we're going to have major congestion, even more than we have today. I think you will see long-term probably the economy go down.
In Hill's vision, the Northern Arc will end at the intersection of 2 other highways in Gwinnett County, and those 2 intersections will eventually anchor a new city the size of Baltimore or Boston.
And then you got the Mall of Georgia right there.
So that's the 10 miles.
That's the 10 miles.
Downtown Atlanta has its own set of problems created by urban sprawl and the individual choices that make up the way we live. New arrivals, increasing demand, and horrible commutes have driven up demand and prices in desirable Atlanta neighborhoods. And for all the talk about loving the sidewalk, corporate and residential high-rises with no street life continue to rise in isolation. And apartment complexes hide in gated cul-de-sacs. The upshot? Even city residents are still dependent on their cars. The public transportation system suffers from a lack of funding support from the surrounding counties.
We do have a transit system. It does function. It goes to certain places. If you live in the right place, it works for you. If you don't, it doesn't.
One strategy of developers downtown is to fill in empty space. In Midtown Atlanta, Atlantic Station, one of many new projects, is under construction on the site of an old